So based on today's news around, the reports coming from the consumer price index, which is pretty much another way of saying that inflation numbers are still very high, all right? 8.3% based on where we were same time last year, so August 2021. And because of this, Bank of America is making a statement which I think we should pay attention because there is a possibility this happening. And it's about the risk around the Federal Reserve in the exercise, or in the the strong will of trying to bring down inflation down, of trying to bring inflation down. They might overdo, they might go a little bit over the board, and that can cause unemployment to rise to 5%. Right now unemployment is still around 3%, which is very, very low in terms, in times like this when the economy might be facing a longer recession, or maybe going into a depression. Now, this is not a good news for people who are living paycheck to paycheck, but it's a good news if you take it the right way. If you start preparing now and not waiting for it to happen, because I do believe that having unemployment rising at 5%, it means that lots of people are going to be laid off. And I can see it happening because some companies already started laying off people, some because they overhired last year, some because they don't want to take unnecessary risk and they want to save cost, because they're not sure how the economy will go. Are we going to go into a recession, a deep recession, or even a depression? A depression is when we have a combination of people losing tons of their job, companies not hiring, laying off, company, because they have margin profits shrinking and even losing money. So instead of being profitable, they are losing money, and having a ton of those companies filing for bankruptcy because they just seem to find liquidity, money, in order to continue to stay afloat. So that will be a huge, situation very similar to what we had in 2008. I don't think we are there yet, but if the Fed continue to not pay attention to the real-time data versus the data they're getting on a month-to-month basis, they might, overdo this, and we might lead to that scenario. Now, I'm making this video because I think in times like this, when people all across the board, it doesn't matter if it's corporations, even individuals, or even billionaires, everybody is trying to assess, what will be the next step, what will be the next direction the stock market, the house market, the economy is going to go. And nobody has an answer. But we can start prepping. And by prepping, I see three things that I've been personally doing since the beginning of this year. First off, I am being really careful about, my expenses. Why? Because in order to make sure you can have that buffer, you need an emergency fund, An emergency fund, usually it's around 3 to 6, months of expenses, but I think it will be now realistic to have a 3 to 6 months worth of income. So you can maneuver the market, or you can maneuver, the scenario, the event where, you are being let go by your employer, especially if it's your number one and sole, source of income. All right. So the second thing is, based on that, in order to bump from 3 to 6 months expense to 3 to 6 months income, it means that I will need to save a lot more money. Now, I can save a lot more money by doing two things. The first thing is I can see where I can stop spending more money. Instead, I can, reduce the amount of areas where my money is going towards. Of course, shelter, transportation to go to work, food, clothing, etc., etc. Those are the items that are non-negotiable. Energy, cost, paying your bills, right? Paying your bills is definitely a non-negotiable. But outside of that, eating out, it's a no-no. Like, I'm really reducing it, which was already the case even before, this whole year started. So I'm really looking for areas where I can save money, because by doing so, I'm giving me, directly a raise. I'm feeling like I'm getting myself a raise. So the second thing we can do in order to save, in order to save a lot more money, is to find out anything I can do to increase my income. With my job, I managed to have a significant 10% raise. That was a couple of months ago, that was a couple of weeks ago. So I'm getting a couple of hundreds of dollars each month that I didn't have last month. So that is the first step that I took in order to make sure, I have more money coming. But I'm not stopping there. I'm also trying to find out anything I can do on the side, a side hustle, a side gig, taking another job, anything I can find that can bring me an additional, couple of hundreds, even if it's just 500, even if it's just 300 a month. That is 300 I didn't have last month or last year. And I'm, instead of just using those, 500s or maybe $1,000 to bump my lifestyle, what I'm doing is I'm saving that, because I need to make sure I have as much money, as much cash as possible in the event that, my company need to let me go. But also that if, I am one of those that are not laid off because my company, is not facing the same issues as others, I can then use that money to take some big deals, to take some, huge opportunities. Because in times like this, the good thing about investing is you can find good assets, not liabilities, good assets that can make your money grow for you, that can give you passive income, whether it's in the real estate market, whether it's in the stock market, whether it's, just in a business, being able to, get into a business as an investor and get, maybe a dividend, maybe, some sort of, fixed income at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, to continue to make your money grow and to give you another source of income. You see what I mean? Because in terms of recession or uncertainty like this we're living now, you can have those good assets at a discount. You can pretty much, join with maybe 2 or 3 other friends that are also have some cash set on the side to buy a house and then rent that house, and then, split the split the rent money into 3 or 4. And that will be an additional maybe 3, maybe 500, that you guys will be able to have at the end of the month. Now, these are just ideas I'm putting out there to give you a sense of what I'm doing, in sense of getting prepared to maneuver whatever comes next in the event that it is worse than we anticipated. Because if it does, then it will be too late to start reacting then. All right. So let me know if you have other things that you guys are planning to do or, have in mind when it comes to kind of getting prepared for these time. And we can share with the community in the comment section.